Hi everyone, so this video was a request from a lady called Liz that I met several weeks ago at Telford, and she wanted to know how to make trifold aperture cards that were a finished size of 5 by 7. Now this can be done in Canvas online, but it's easier to do in Canvas download program for PC or Mac. I use a Mac. This is what my download program looks like. Yours should look very similar. If you don't know where to get the downloadable program, go to Canvas Workspace online. If you've not already created your free account, create your free account, and then before you log in, you will see a box that says download for PC or Mac. And you download the program to your own computer. And that's what I'm using here today. So the first thing you'll see is that obviously by default a 12 by 12 mat comes up. So we're going to go into the bottom icon here on the right, which is called the art board. I'm going to select that and I'm going to change the size of my workspace or art board, as it's called here, to 12 by 24, because if Liz wants a trifold card and she wants the finished size to be 5 inches wide by 7 inches high, the overall dimensions of this card are going to be 15 inches by 7. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to drag a rectangle onto my workspace. I'm going to come to the editing icon, which is the second icon down here over on the top right. And I'm going to make the width 15. But before I do anything, I'm going to untick maintain aspect ratio. So I'm going to make the width 15 inches and I'm going to make the height 7. And I work in inches. If you work in millimeters or anything like that, you can change your dimensions. You can actually go into the artboard here and change to millimeters or inches. And I work in inches, so that's where mine is. So I've now got a rectangle that's 15 inches by 7 inches high. Just going to come back to the editing icon. Now this is, you don't have to do this. This is purely and simply how I do it. I just find it easier to always have my work up here in the top left hand corner when I'm going to be putting dash lines in. And this top line across here is known as the 0 axis, and so is this one down here on the horizontal. So if I position this box in 0x and press enter, X is the axis here and it's positioned it at 0, which is directly on this line. Then if I position it at 0 on the Y and click enter, it puts it in the top corner. Liz wants this card to be a trifold, which means it folds into 3. So we need to put 2 equal dashed fold lines in this card. So I'm going to come over to the path icon, which is here on the left, and select it. I'm going to click once on the mouse somewhere on the mat in an empty space. I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard and drag a line out and just double click to anchor it. And it doesn't matter how long I make this line at this moment because I'm going to change it here in the editing menu. So while it's selected, the first thing I'm going to do is come up here to the top where it says line, and I'm going to change it to a dash line. Now I tend to use the third one down, but again it's personal preference. You can do whatever you want. While my line is still selected, I'm going to come over here. You can see it's got no width because it's just a single stroke line, and I'm going to make the height 7 inches because that is the height of the finished card. Okay, so now I want to position this first dash line at 5 inches. So rather than guessing and counting lines and working out where to put it, I'm going to use the X and Y axis. So I'm going to take the x-axis to 5 and hit enter, and I'm going to take the y-axis to 0, and that puts the top of the dash line here on the y-axis, and it's put the line at 5 inches for me. Now while it's still selected, I'm going to right click and hit duplicate, and because I'd already assigned the first line as a dash line, my second line is automatically a dash line, and I'm now going to position this at 10 inches lined up with the top of the card. So I'm going to come back to the x-axis and put 10 and hit enter, and then I'm going to put 0 in the y. So that has now given me a 15-inch by 7-inch card with a fold line at 5 and a fold line at 10. I'm going to drag an imaginary box around everything, and I'm going to right click and group. So this now will move as a group. I'm just going to undo that to put it back here. So from here now, all you need to do is put your aperture shape in the middle. This right hand part of your card will fold backwards behind here, and this will be where you encase whatever design it is you want to use, and it will show through whichever shape aperture you put here, and this part of the card will fold backwards and make your finished 7 by 5 card. So this is now your basic template. So what I would do, I would save this with no aperture in it whatsoever, and just call up this file and add in your different shape apertures and then resave. So by that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold my shift key down and rotate it so it all rotates and stays nice and straight. And then I'm going to save this as a Canvas Workspace file first, rather than an FCM file. Because if I save it as a Canvas Workspace file, I can come back and add to it and resave it. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to come to Save As. That's going to open my Save dialog box. Yours may look slightly different, I use a Mac. I'm going to save this as 5 by 7 Trifold template, and for now I'm just going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to close Canvas Workspace program down completely, and then here is my template. So now if I double click to open it, it will open it in the downloadable program. I'm going to use my shift key and just rotate it back to get it horizontal. And then now, let's say you want to put an oval in the middle. I'm going to come down here and find an oval. I'll make the oval, go to the edit menu, and I'll untick the maintain aspect ratio, and I'll say I want it 5 inches wide by 3 inches high, and then I'll rotate it, and then I'll position it somewhere in the middle. I'll drag an imaginary box around both, and then using the edit icons, I'll center it on the horizontal and center it on the vertical. And I'm not sure how well you're going to see. I'll zoom in. So the oval aperture is now positioned centrally in this section of the card, which is where you want it. So let me just zoom back out. Then I would resave this as a 5 by 7 oval aperture. So we'll select everything, right click and group, rotate it so it fits back on the mat, and then this time we'll go to File, Save As. The dialog box will come up again, and it's remembering the last thing I saved. So all that I need to do is call this now 5x7 trifold oval, and because I've given it a different name, it will save it as a separate file. So I'll close this down, and here's my oval. Now if I come back to my original, my 5x7 trifold template, and double click to open that again, your template is always the blank one. So we'll rotate it back just to make it horizontal, and this time we'll put a rectangle in the middle. So I'll come to the edit icon and I'll make this 5x3. I'll rotate it. Again, I'll position it just on top of the card. I'll select both and I'll use the center vertical and center horizontal again. And then if I zoom in now, you'll see I've got a rectangle positioned in the center panel of my aperture card. So I'll just zoom back out. So I'll drag an imaginary box around this, right click and group, rotate it so it fits back on the 12x24 mat, and then we'll go File, Save As, and then I'll rename this one. So this one's going to be 5x7 trifold rectangle, and save. I'll close the program down again, and here is my other template. So I've got my base card template with no aperture in, and so long as I just keep that as it is, and every time I open it, if I add a different shape aperture to it and resave it with a new name, this base template will always just be the base card, and you can just drop any shape aperture into it that you want. From that, I opened that up, I added an oval. You can see here, this is the oval one, and I renamed it. So I've now got an oval, and I've also got a rectangle. And then if you wanted to put a heart in, you go back to your original one that's called template, and you put a heart in. And when you do File, Save As, you save it as a slightly different name, and that will make you a new saved file, and your template will always remain as your template. Then all as you need to do is, let's say we want to open up the 5x7 trifold rectangle. Open this up in your Canvas downloadable program, and then send this to your machine however you do it. So you can go File, Export as FCM, and that will ask you where you want to save it, and you can, put a USB stick in your machine or whatever. Or I would send it wirelessly. If you've got Wi-Fi enabled on your machine, go to File, Transfer FCM file via internet, and that will save that straight over to your machine, and you can cut it. So I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, leave them underneath this video for me. Please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. And I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.